Okay, there are interior stairways and corridors and elevators in the multifamily building and stairs in the open parking garage. The building will be fully compliant with the building code. A full NFPA fire suppression, full NFPA 13 fire suppression will be installed in this building. The building is separated into 3 smaller buildings by fire areas as required by code. There is also
Mark, let me ask you, as far as the comments from the Teaneck Fire Department, did you see the letter dated March 9th, 2016?
Yes, I did.
And any comment on the review letter?
Well, we're going to, my comment would be that we'll meet the building code for State of New Jersey building code on all of these items.
And the correction is May 9th.
May 9th.
Number 1.
To read the item and then respond to how
The fire department would require a full NFPA 13 sprinkler system be installed to ensure complete coverage to the entire building. Sprinkler coverage must include all closets, stairwells, storage areas, and all combustible voids and combustible concealed spaces, such as, but not limited to, above ceilings per the developer's promise to the mayor and council. We are providing a full NFPA 13 sprinkler system, and we will design that system to meet the building code. The activation of any fire alarm or water flow.
1 second. You said the building, but will you meet the comments that are made here by the fire department?
Well, you wanted me to go through it one by one, or?
No. In other words, if they're saying you have to cover combustible sealed spaces and closets and stairwells, and the building code doesn't say that.
Okay.
Well,
What happens is with the NFPA 13.
Hold on,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
You have to let me finish talking and then you speak so she can get it on the record. I'm apologizing.
Sorry.
Did you get it? Okay.
So yes, the NFPA 13 sprinkler system, it requires you to cover every room in a 13 covered building. So anything like closets, stairwells, storage areas would be included with sprinkler heads. Okay, they'll be covered. Yeah.
So number 1 is a yes.
Number 1 is a yes.
Okay.
The activation.
Would exceed the fire standards really mean?
Well, I believe what we're saying is we're using an NFPA 13 sprinkler system. We could, by building code, use an NFPA 13R sprinkler system, which is a less, well, an NFPA 13R sprinkler system is a less extensive system. I can go into the details. For instance, any space less than 55 square feet does not have to be sprinkled. You don't have to sprinkle the interstitial spaces or the attics or the floors between floors.
And that would be permitted.
And that would be permitted by the building code if we so chose to use an NFPA 13 sprinkler system.
But alternatively, what are we doing?
We're using an NFPA 13 system.
So
A little louder from the attorney, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sure. No, my question was, so explain how we're exceeding the standard.
Well, we're exceeding the standard that we're using an NFP 13 system, which is a much more extensive system and covers much more areas inside the buildings and covers the interstitial spaces between the floors and the attic space of the buildings. And we would have to, because we could use a 13R system.
Okay, now, continue on the same vein. I understand now, and thank you, that it's a better water system, in essence, for us laymen, in terms of sprinklers. And there is no change whatsoever from the standard construction regarding materials being used?
No, we're using a wood frame. We're using a wood frame structure. It's a 5A construction type, which is allowed by code.
Okay, you're not exceeding code. Thank you.
That's not correct. Correct. We're doing masonry firewalls. That's what you agreed to do, please say.
Okay. What I'd like to say is we're also using masonry firewalls instead of, which is exceeding the.
That's the kind of detail I was hoping.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Are you including attic sprinklers?
If they're required by code, yes.
No, I'm asking, are you including attic sprinklers?
Yes, I believe it's required by code.
Regardless of whether it's required by code, would you be including attic sprinklers?
If we were doing a 13R system, we would not, but since we're doing a 13 system, we are.
The answer is yes.
Okay. Closet sprinklers?
Yes.
I just want to plain yes to the question. Masonry firewalls were a yes.
Okay, give your name and address for the record, please, Ron.
Ronald Liddell, I'm Avalon Bay Community Senior Vice President, 517 Route 1 South, Suite 5500, Islin, New Jersey, 08830. So I want to thank the members of the planning board for asking some very salient questions, as the members of the public have done also. And I apologize because, in full disclosure, I think my witness confused some things. So now I'm going to try to clarify some of them. In some cases, he was unaware of it, so I understand why there was some confusion. Let me deal with Mr. Rose's questions and a few amplified by others. The difference between what we're doing everywhere where there's a mid-rise building, post Edgewater, which for those of you that don't know was January 21st, 2015. There was a tragedy that we suffered and our residents suffered, including 3 of our associates, that one of the 2 buildings burned down to the ground. That building used an NFPA 13R system. Basically, R stands for residential. That building does not require, that system does not require sprinklers in attics or any interstitial spaces. That particular fire was caused as public, I'm not saying anything that's not known, by a fire that started behind a wall that ultimately spread into the attic and then across the areas throughout that particular building. Since that time, Avalon Bay has pledged to, in all similar construction buildings, to only use a 13 system. The difference is, in very layman's terms, is that there are now going to be sprinklers in the attics and interstitial spaces between floors, closets, etc. It's a tremendous difference. And in fact, Bergen County Executive Jim Tedesco, former fire chief of Paramus, endorsed that change. It was actually in our press release when that was done. In addition, a question that was asked about the codes of legislation. The legislation has not changed. It is exactly the same as it was 14, 15 months ago. We are allowed to build the exact same product we built in Edgewater and in many other communities throughout the state of New Jersey. We are the only developer that has chosen to commit to do more than the fire suppression requirements exist today. And
again, question, but it's additional question. The thing is that reports of Edgewater told that it burned to the ground, okay? So my question is, the whole water piping, will be plastic then probably, because the civil just steel pipes do not burn, okay? So if it's plastic, the reports on the Hackensack Avalon complex says that the sprinkler leaked and 12 apartments had to be evacuated. If fire melts one of the plastic pipes, it might destroy completely the whole distribution of water for any sprinklers and any prevention. Question is what it is. Is it plastic, which basically will melt, or not?
First of all, the Hackensack issue that he's referring to, and I don't know if it's 12 or 8 or 6, the sprinklers went off. We don't know why they went off. There were units that got wet. We had to relocate residents, we paid for the damage, and they were repaired. I'm not sure how I want to respond to that. This is a relevant issue. The fact that the sprinklers worked and went off is a good thing, not a bad thing. Can you imagine if they didn't go off, what the comments would be at that point? Nothing melted. I don't know where, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your last name. I don't know where he's getting this information from, so I don't really respond to hypotheticals. I don't respond to inaccuracies. Edgewater burned. It was a horrible tragedy.
I'm sorry, what I got from part of his question is, are you using plastic piping or steel piping? That's what I understood part of his question today. Correct?
So I had to go ask someone with regard to that question, since I'm not an architect, I am an attorney. We use plastic piping because it's allowed by code. I don't know anyone that uses steel piping at all, so I can't really comment on it. But I would tell you that the hypothesis of the question is completely inaccurate.
I think that for the sprinkler, I think the question was on the sprinkler systems. It's not plastic. It would be
It's black.
It would be copper or black.
Yes, but that part. But
the domestic lines are code on it.
Not to, what do you? I think this question was. Hold on. What material is their sprinkler system in it?
But what do you consider the sprinkler system? It's not one item that comprises the sprinkler system.
So the water that supplies the sprinkler system, he's saying is plastic. Is that
It's plastic.
He's already sworn, so he can speak.
The sprinkler
Just say your name so on the record they know who's speaking.
Mark Drake. The sprinkler system is usually CPVC, which is a form of plastic pipe, which is allowed by code and which is done in almost 99% of sprinkler, of wood frame sprinkler.
On the sprinkler riser.
That from the sprinkler riser machinery, that's all CPVC, which is
Plastic,
piping.
from there all the way to the sprinkler head.
Right.
And up to the riser is what, copper?
The risers for the sprinkler, I generally think that's a CPVC. Again, I believe all that system is all plastic. But, you know, what's that? Well, the sprinkler heads go off before the lines get high. What happens is the sprinkler lines are below the ceiling, or in the ceiling. When there's a fire, the heads pop, the water comes out, and it puts the fire out. Now, I will, you know, okay.
Okay, any other board members? Okay. James? Question?
Yeah, well, about the sprinkler?
Just come.
Clarify? Yeah, okay. James, just to clarify, between residential sprinklers and commercial, which we do every day, on commercial, we use black pipe for the sprinkler system and for the heads. That's all black pipe. For the domestic water, it's plastic. That's in commercial. Resident, commercial high-rise. Now, for this, it's a mid-rise? So it may be different where you can do plastic. But we always use black pipe for all sprinkler heads, for the main rise and for all the branches coming over. There's always black pipe.
That is true for office buildings.
So maybe for residential, it may be a little different.
That is true.
So that's something you may have to clarify, which is acceptable between commercial and this building.
This is a residential building.
I'm just saying.
So what would you like to clarify?
The commercial fire department.
For the fire department to clarify what they want. Do they want plastic or do they want black pipe? That's all I'm saying. Because there is a difference.
Okay,
That's all.
first of all, I got it. Fire department did not address it in their comments.
No.
And 1 second, and when they'll have building plans, they're gonna go for the building department, it's gonna go for the fire department, and if it's plastic, if the fire department doesn't want plastic, they will put in their comments
That's
at
what
the
I'm
time.
saying. Just clarify between the two.
I appreciate the clarification, so we understand.
Because that's how I took it.
Thank you. You had a second thing you wanted to
No, I was
say?
done. I was done. I want you to...
No, not.